Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have a guy on the show that's actually running for Senate in the great state of Louisiana. His name is Christopher Holder. He goes by Chris. We're going to have Chris on in just a second to find out why he decided to run for Senate. That's huge. So stay with us. Do me a favor if you would, and go ahead and share this out to everybody you know, and stay with us as we talk to Chris Holder about why he decided to run for Senate and what's going on with that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And we're back and we're ready to bring Chris on. Let me go ahead and do that. Chris, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. How you doing?
Doing wonderful.
Good. So Chris, I met you on an X space, and
Yes,
you were
sir.
talking about running for Senate in Louisiana, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And according to my research, you've got how's the saying go? A long row to hoe to
Absolutely.
to win that, but we need to get the rhino pieces of crap out of our government, and it appears that you're running against one of those over there. So, but let's start with you telling everybody first where you were born and raised. I assume Louisiana, but I could be wrong.
No, you are correct. I
Okay.
was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, actually at the LSU hospital, and I spent the first years of my life in a little town just east of Shreveport called Minden. Uh, Anybody from the north that looks it up is going to say, "Oh, that's Minden." Not quite. It's Minden, but we talk funny down here, anyways. I bounced around a little bit. My mom and father separated when I was extremely young, and we can get into that a little later. But uh, my mom remarried, and I lived in just about every Dixie state except for Kentucky and Tennessee. Uh, just before high school, I came back to Louisiana and went to high school at Cotton Valley High School, which is not even a high school anymore. My graduating class was 13 people,
Wow.
very small. Uh, as such, after high school, I tried the oil field out. I did a little stint in the oil field, and then I came back and wanted to be more community service oriented. So I went to work for Habitat for Humanity, actually under the Vista program. And if you're not familiar with that, that's actually Volunteers in Service to America. And I was a government employee working to help build houses and such for those that were in need. And I did that up until I was about 21. When I turned 21, actually, about 2 weeks after I turned 21, I went to work for the sheriff's department, and I worked for the sheriff's department for 6 years until they spent almost $250,000 trying to put my right leg back together. Um,
Whoa.
Took me almost a year to get back on my feet. It was 10 and a half months. 7.5 months of that was on crutches, non weight bearing at all. And then at the 10
Gee.
and a half month mark, I was able to lay everything down, and I had my ambulation back. I was able to walk under my own volition. So
So wait,
moving
you so
forward,
were you a deputy sheriff then?
I was, I was,
Okay. And
um,
you were injured on the job, I
I
guess?
was,
What
yes, sir.
happened?
So I was responding to a fight. I showed up at the fight. There was two individuals fighting, and there was some known gang members in the area. Well, when I showed up, I try to put humor in it because we have to look for humor in everything.
Yeah.
Two of the OGs, or the older gang members that kind of led the local little pack, um, as soon as I pulled up, they were like, "All right, it's over. The man's here." Um, and so the guy that was winning the fight stood up, walked over to me, and he said, "Okay, boss, I'm done." He turned around, he put his hands behind his back. I put the handcuffs on the guy. The guy that was getting beaten, laying on the ground, decided at that point that he was going to strike. He jumped up and jumped on the guy that I just put handcuffs on.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
yeah, this little guy wasn't as big as a minute. I mean, he was a little bitty fella. So, in relevance, I'm not a small fella. I'm 6'2", 275. And I've
Wow.
been that way the majority of my adult life. So
Yeah.
I reached down and I grabbed him by the belt loop and I picked him up eye level with me. And I looked at him and I said, "Okay, man, look, the fight's over. Let just, take your lick. Let's move forward and handle this like adults." Well, as such, um, he then turned his attention to me and tried to come after me. Well, I'd set the guy back down and attempted to arrest him, and he tried to swing at me, and I picked him up and um, turned him away from the guy that I had already arrested. And in doing such, I had to take him over a steel table. He never touched the steel table. I took him all the way over top of the steel table and put him on the other side so that I could just separate the two of them. Well, in the process of me picking him up and turning around, I kicked the table and pushed my kneecap around the side of my leg. So
Oh,
I
God.
hurt myself. I,
How?
I, I, I was not hurt by an offender. I hurt myself, and I actually completed the arrest. I actually took the guy in, and when I put him into the holding cell and closed the door of the holding cell, at that point, the realization that I was hurt hit, and I looked down. My leg was swole up, all the way down. My
Jeez.
pant was full to my ankle, um, and I looked at the supervisor and I said, and I was working nights at the time, so it was 4:30 in the morning. I turned to the supervisor and I said, "I'm going to sit right here. I'm going to do my paperwork. End of the shift, I'll go home, and then we'll see what tomorrow brings with my leg because I don't know how serious this is going to be." I ended up making it home, uh, which was a feat in itself because at the time I was driving a standard pickup truck.
Oh, my Lord.
And so
Wow.
I got to the house, laid down, iced my knee, and when I woke up about 4.5 hours later, I needed to go to the bathroom. I woke up and stood up, and it sounded like a 22 pistol had gone off. Just the pop
Oh,
of
my
everything in
God.
the back. I fell. I hit the ground. I couldn't talk. I didn't have words. I just sat there, um,
Oh,
and from there,
jeez.
from that moment, I was not able to put weight on my leg for 7.5 months. There was two surgeries and multiple rehabs done for me to get back to a point of being able to stand up on my own. So
Wow.
that took that. Also, I was never allowed to go back into law enforcement again. My plan was to retire as a law enforcement officer. I planned to work because there's such a great retirement plan with the Louisiana Sheriff's Association. The way that they have it set up is that being as it is such a high stress job, if you get into it early enough, then you get full retirement at 55. Well,
Right.
getting into it at 21, I would have had 33 years in it. 30 years, you cap at 100%, and then you go 3 years into the drop. So not only would I have retired at 55, but I would have retired with, a fair chunk of change to be able to
Wow.
transition. Not being able to go back to it, I decided, I live my life to help my community, and I put myself out there to make sure that other people do as well, if not better than me, and I strive for everybody to do better than me. So I went back to school. At that point, I started working. I started as a delivery driver at Pizza Hut just to get me through school, and I went back to school and studied paramedicine at Bossier Parish Community College. And as soon as I could, went to work on an ambulance and started helping the people of my community through healthcare. Granted, I was a first responder as a deputy sheriff. I had all of my first responder credentials and all of that, but uh, through school, I jumped on the ambulance and I spent 6 years on an ambulance. And there was weeks on the ambulance, we would work 48/72, so 48 hours on, 48 hours off, and it would flip flop. So um, there was weeks that I worked 10 hours or 10 days straight on an ambulance.
And this is after being a deputy sheriff for six years. Then
Yes, sir.
you're a first responder on an ambulance, EMT.
Yes, sir.
Wow,
Yes, sir.
that's
Um, and
incredible.
and that was after I had my whole knee redone. And then, let me backtrack just a little. Um, as soon as I got back on my feet, I went on a motorcycle ride with another officer, a personal friend of mine, a friend of mine that's been a friend longer than before I was a deputy. Back into my teenage years when I was in high school, one of the guys I kind of looked up to, um, who is now like the captain over the detectives for a local municipality. And we went on a motorcycle ride together. And I had a spot where I caught some gravel and I went down on a motorcycle and I broke my back just getting over my knee.
Oh my God.
I broke my
Wow.
back. And that kind of sealed the deal 100% on me never being able to go back to law enforcement.
Wow.
So still wanting to serve my community, still wanting to be a member of the 911 atmosphere because I love it so much.
Right.
I'm all about giving back to the community and helping out in any way that I can. So then I went into paramedicine, and when I did that again, I did that for 6 years, and there was pay periods that I would work 14 out of 14 days.
Wow.
Or 10 out of 14 days. And our scheduled shifts are 7 out of 14 days. And it's definitely not for the money. Neither of those careers are for the money. When I went into
Right.
law enforcement, we started out, my first year in law enforcement, I think I made $21,800.
Right. Right.
My first year. First year in EMS, I think I made $48,000. So it's not a lucrative career, and it's not for somebody that's trying to better themselves in a manner of being selfishly motivated.
Right. Right.
So I did that, and then in the process had a child. My daughter is now 7, and that was about midway through my EMS career. And as such, back when I was a police officer, I had started working with a guy that had a FFL and a SOT, which is a federal firearms license and a special operating tax. And I built him from my previous experience in construction. I had actually built him a shop on his residence, a gun shop. And right about that time that my daughter was born, he was moving his business 2 hours away. So I guess you could say I piggybacked off of it. So I got my own business license. I got my own LLC, my own FFL, and my own SOT. And I opened a firearms business on top of working paramedicine.
Wow.
And I had moved myself and aligned myself because of the birth of my daughter to work dispatch at the ambulance. So I was working from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the dispatch office so that my now ex could go to nursing school, and I would come home at 6 a.m. and I would take my child Autumn. I would take her from 6 a.m. until my ex got out of school. Once she got out of school, she would come and collect her from me. I would have a couple of hours to catch a nap here and a couple of hours to catch a nap there.
Yeah.
All the parents out there know when your kid takes a nap, you take a nap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did that for a few years. I was really successful with my firearms business to the point that when my ex got done with nursing school and started nursing, I shifted away to a part-time role on the ambulance and was working my firearms business full-time. And when
So
Trump was in
you're
office,
just to be clear though, you do not support the Second Amendment at all.
oh yeah, no.
Okay.
In my in my stint with my own business, I actually procured a few demonstrations for local law enforcements and such. So I used my SOT to the fullest and have law letters in place for me to purchase and own some post ban firearms. So
Wow.
that in itself means that I did procure a few full autos and demonstrate those to law enforcement agencies because I was a dealer that was dealing directly with law enforcement agencies as well as the civilian public. So
Wow.
we made it. I was doing great, man. I mean, uh, we had deals worked up. I was working on opening an indoor shooting range. I was going to have contracts with all the local municipalities, all of the sheriff's departments, all of the everybody to use me for training. I'm a certified instructor. I'm still currently a certified instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and with all of that, this was during Trump's first term. He came out one day and said, "Hey, look, COVID, it seems to be a thing. And so we're going to take an abbreviation of 2 weeks, and everybody's
Yep.
going to just calm down for 2 weeks and
Yep.
stay home and see if we can get ahead of this guy."
Flatten the curve.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And when he came out and said that, I had that week, I had two meetings with two different banks to work a $1.5 million business deal to open an indoor range. Um,
Wow.
I had two more meetings later that week, and he came out and saved that. He came out and said that in uh, on every platform there was. And I received four phone calls that day, later that evening, about 2 hours after that statement. And all four of them were the banks. And the banks called me and said, "We're not saying no, we're saying we're going to put this on hold.
Right.
Let's see what happens with this, and then we'll come out the backside and look at it."
Right.
It's history from there. We all know what kind of happened. And I went from running a $1 million business to not being able to get products in. So um, it hit pretty hard. I got back on the ambulance here and there from after that, and then when my now ex decided to leave, I could no longer work on the ambulance because I was raising my daughter full time. So I needed a job that was going to be more 8 to 5, and I went to work for the 28th largest healthcare provider in the nation, which is Willis Knighton Healthcare. Um, and I work currently one of my jobs is a nurse in a urology clinic in
Wow.
in Bossier City.
Wow. So the firearms business is gone.
For the most part, I just recently let my FFL and my SOT go. Um,
What's SOT? I know what FFL is.
Special operating tax is
Oh,
commonly referred to as the Class 3 dealer,
got it.
uh, which is a little bit of misconception on the articulation there, but it is the silencers and
Yeah.
fully autos, short
Got it.
barrel rifles, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So at some point you made the decision that you were going to run for Senate of
Yes, sir.
Louisiana, one of two seats, right?
Yes, sir.
So, and you're running against an incumbent rhino, I believe, right?
Correct.
Who are you running against?
Bill Cassidy.
Okay. So tell me why you decided that it would be a good idea to run against an incumbent rhino in the state of Louisiana?
So a couple things played into this. The first of which is just that, you know, he is an incumbent rhino. This is his third term.
Yep.
Um, we elected him on the basis of being representation of the state of Louisiana and the people of Louisiana, to which he is not. He not only does he like to play on both sides of the fence, but he plays on both sides of the fence to the point that neither party likes him. If you talk to the average common person in Louisiana, all of them say that Bill Cassidy needs to go. We need to get rid of him. He's a problem for everybody, and we have another senator currently, John Kennedy. Most of y'all may know him, and he is fantastic. He speaks his mind. He speaks the truth. He stands up, and he says the first thing that comes to his mind. And as such, he is more of the representation of the Louisiana person. He is more representation of the blood, the livelihood, the values of Louisiana, and as such, he needs a counterpart or a someone else from Louisiana that is going to do the same things.
Yeah.
Someone that is going to stand up, speak their mind, and speak for the people, regardless of the media rhetoric, regardless of the popularity votes or anything else. You need somebody that's going to stand up there and say what the Louisiana people need. And with my time in community service that I've put in, with the things that I've done for the local people, the community, the state, even because I've worked all over the state in healthcare, we need somebody that has the realistic views of the people, not somebody that was a doctor and then decided to become a politician. I'm not a politician. I have no plans to be a politician, an
Right.
indoctrinated politician, I should say. And I feel like that's where we've gotten to. We've gotten to the point that it's indoctrination, and we need to take it back. And I feel like it's got to start at home, right? It's, you know, they say community service starts at home. And I've been doing it for years. And sitting in that seat is not supposed to be a politician, it's supposed to be a service to your community.
Yep.
So that's kind of where we're at. And that's kind of what we need. I just feel like nobody has the audacity to actually stand up and say it and to strive for it. So my purpose here is to stand up and take charge and look forward to the future and say, I am here for the people. I am of the people. I mean, currently I work 2 jobs to pay for all of the things that I am doing.
Wow.
So, um, as such, it's not like I have a $6.5 million war chest, which Cassidy just claimed in his latest filing of the FEC report, is that he
Jeez.
has a $6.5 million war chest. I'm not.
Jeez.
I'm number one. I'm not incumbent. Number two, I'm not a politician. Number three, right? I feel like I'm a voice of the people. I'm not being bought. I'm not being told that I need to vote a certain way. I'm legitimately somebody that has lived, worked, and bled just like every other American that
Yep.
goes to the voting poll and votes. A lot of
Wow.
those people don't.
My wife just commented and said, I wish everyone looked at service like that. Politician has become a bad word. It's so true. Look at what we're going through today with RFK Jr. and like I cannot believe the rhinos and the crap they're pulling. It's insane. Like it's just
Correct.
insane. And it has been. We all know that. It's been insane for a hot minute. So talk about some of the, I mean, when you're going up against somebody with a $6.5 million war chest, that's a lot of money for a Senate race. What
Yes.
what are you doing to combat that, to try to get yourself out in front of this guy?
You know, the reality of it is right now there's Bill Cassidy with a $6.5 million war chest, and then there's another doctor that has announced that he wants to run as well, and that's the
Mm.
state treasurer, John Fleming, and he was just elected in November as state treasurer for the state, and then 2 weeks later he announced that he was going to run for the Senate race as well. John Fleming is well known and well supported. Both of these individuals are over the age of 70. Um, that being what it is, I'm not saying that anybody over the age of 70 is incompetent or doesn't have the ability to keep up, but I am saying that if you're going to represent the state, and we are supposed to, in this position, be a representation of the state, then why are we sending people of retirement age, people
Yeah.
that are on Medicare? I'm not saying either one of them are on Medicare, but
Right.
Medicare eligible people to represent us for the state. I mean, we've seen over the past 8 years the difference in the generational gaps. Gen X, Gen Z, millennials.
Yep.
I think they're calling the new ones Zennials. Um, and with that, every one of them has a different thought process. Every one of them has a different way of processing anything and everything that is put out into the public. So, why would we put somebody in office that has been a politician longer than the iPhone has been in production?
Right.
Every one of us is running a smartphone, and if you think about it, the iPhone came out, and I think it was 2009. But Bill Cassidy and John Fleming have both been in a political perspective for coming up on 20 years right now. If you've been
Wow.
there for 20 years and smartphones have only been on the block for 18, I don't think you can give accurate representation of the people.
Wow, that is crazy, man. That's crazy. So are you knocking doors? Are you what all are you doing to I mean, hey, and what's the population of Louisiana?
I can tell you registered voters. So
Okay.
there's 3.8 million registered voters
Okay.
in Louisiana now.
Okay.
And that being said, we have a huge hurdle with this coming up election in 2026. The governor has announced and already put it into play that we're going to have a closed primary.
What's that mean?
That means that Republicans get a Republican ballot that have Republicans listed down it. Democrats get a Democratic ballot that have Democrats listed down it. Independents can choose one party or the other, but because that's the only two recognized parties on this ballot.
Right.
But anybody that's in the Libertarian Party, the Tea Party, the Green Party, any of those won't see my name or anyone else's name on their ballot.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. So, okay, well, what are you doing about that? What are you gonna
So I went to the RSCC, which is the Republican State Central Committee. I went to their meeting for this quarter already. I went down and sat down and talked to a bunch of them. And the only feedback that I got from them, or the biggest feedback that I got from them, was the fact that they are looking for younger people to put into these positions because they want to be able to hold seniority
Right.
in the office.
Right.
So if you put somebody younger in there, potentially they could be there for longer.
Right.
I do understand that. I respect that, and I'm behind it to an extent, right?
Sure.
Because I also believe that at the absolute most, senator shouldn't be in office more than 18 years. That's 3 terms. So if he put in 18 years in the Senate, then absolutely you've got seniority at 3 terms. But at the end of 3 terms, I think that it's time for a whole new generation, because you've got a whole new, almost 2 new generations of
Yeah.
voters coming up. And your representation is that of the latter rather than the younger. So
Yeah.
I feel like we need to roll the positions of the office, because again, this is supposed to be service to your community. And if you're not of your community, if you're not out there and you're not doing the things, then how can you be a service member of your community?
Right.
So I've gone to the RSCC. I've talked to them. I went to the Republican women's meeting for this quarter and talked to them, talked to a bunch of them. And a lot of them are even, at this point, we're 2 years before the election, almost 2 years before the election. We're about 22 months out. And
Wow.
these people are looking at me going, you got yard signs, you got, decals, what can we do to support you? And my big thing right now is the fact that, hey, look, I'm standing against a guy with a $6.5 million war chest. If you want to support me, I just need to be able to get in front of the people. I need to host events, talk to
Yeah.
people. I've made phone calls. I've made thousands and thousands of phone calls in between working 2 jobs and raising a kid.
Wow.
So I'm doing everything in my power to touch as many people as I can, everywhere that I can.
Well,
And the absolute crazy part about it is that standing up, having conversations and talking to those people and running into the number of Democrats, leftists, however you want to categorize them, and having conversations, explaining my reasoning and talking about the things that I plan to stand for. They're even willing to vote for me, but in a closed primary, it's going to be kind of hard. So
yeah.
uh, anything with Republican on the name, I've showed up to, and there's another guy that may be entering the race that is currently a sitting state senator. He was just elected and took office in January, and he's not announced as of yet if he wants to run. But there's about 100,000 people across the state that are pushing him to do so.
Wow.
Him and I have actually had conversations on the phone, and we've sat down and talked face to face as well. And we may be doing so again later this week. But he's still not 100% sold that he wants to run. I don't know if my jumping in the race slowed that down any, but he's showing up at every event that I'm showing up at. So
Wow.
apparently we kind of both have the same mentality of the phone calls,
Well, let me ask you this. Let me what was the genesis of your decision? What made you decide to do this? I mean, did you just wake up one morning and go, I just think I should run for Senate?
No. So
Well,
I've been
there
sitting
was
back
a
and
reason behind it.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I've been sitting back for years watching the politics as we see them, and watching what people have said and done, and watch the politicians as we know them, the indoctrinated politicians. And one minute they'll say something that you absolutely agree with and you love, and then it's like, even on those statements, they'll recant it, or they'll modify it, or they'll break their values to make sure that they win the vote, or to make sure that they make the friends, or who knows, maybe they're getting a kickback off of something on the backside. I don't know. I'm not there to tell you they are or they aren't, but I am saying that those things don't talk about a person, and they don't speak for the values of a person, and the values and the core beliefs of a person. Somebody of faith, and I'll say faith loosely. I'll explain that in a second. But if you have faith in something, if you have faith in someone, if you have faith in religion, then there's a structure of morals and ethics that you were supposed to adhere to in every decision that you make. And the people that we have in place, and the people that are attempting to run, don't align with my morals, ethics, or thought processes. And as such,
Right.
I believe that those are not representation of the Louisiana people. Um, I've thought about it for a long time. I've thought about it for years, actually, and I've never really spoken out about it. I've never really um, said anything. I've just kind of hinted around to a couple people. Um, and this year, uh, during, or I should say last year, during the election cycle, um, I tried to reach out and have my voice heard. In doing so, I reached out to John Kennedy's office. I reached out to Bill Cassidy's office. I reached out to Mike Johnson's office. I reached out to my local state senator as well. I reached out to all of these people via email, via text, via phone call, every one of them.
Yeah.
I've got 2 replies. The first of which was Mike Johnson's office. And after my 3rd time trying to reach out or so, I said, hey, look, I just want to let you know that I've decided that we need somebody of the people and for the people. So I want to step up and run for U.S. Senate. As such, I would love to have a conversation with you and sit down and talk face to face. The immediate reply, well, it wasn't immediate. It was about 3 days. 3 days later, I got a call while I was working with a patient in a clinic, and I was unable to take it. So I have the voicemail, and it was somebody from Mike Johnson's office who called me and said, we're unable to help you, and have a nice day. In
Wow.
short, Bill Cassidy, I've sent multiple emails to him over the years, and the only email that I've ever got a response to was the fact that they were trying to, they were voting on a the deciding vote on the currency issues when talking about cryptocurrency. And this was right before the election. And I sent something up about cryptocurrency because I'm in full support of cryptocurrency. And I believe most of the people in Louisiana are as well. So I sent an email. Well, they voted to confirm the person that we were pushing for. And as such, I got an email back. Hey, thanks. I'm fighting for you. And I'm doing all of the things, but he's never responded to any of my direct messages about anything else. He's never responded to any of my phone calls.
Wow.
And granted, I realize that, there are 3.8 million voters in the state of Louisiana. But at the same time, if I put you out on X, Facebook, everywhere else that, hey, look, I'm trying to get a hold of you. I've called you. I've sent emails. I think there's even copies of the emails that I sent posted on my X weeks after I sent them because I didn't get a reply. So then I posted them to X, tagged him, and then tagged his Senate profile as well to try to get replies from him, and of which I've never received a reply. So again, if you're in a position of service for the community and the community is trying to reach out to you and have conversations with you and they want to talk to you about something and it's urgent enough that they put you out on 3 different platforms and say, hey, look, I just want to sit down and talk.
Right.
To not
Right.
have the audacity to be able to come back and say, no, we're not going to, for whatever reason, or to
Right.
even call me on a one-on-one phone call so that we can talk back and forth. Or have a representative call me from your office. I mean, at least Mike Johnson had somebody from his office call me and tell me, hey, look, I can't talk to you about that.
Right.
Have a nice day.
So I know that some of the issues that are facing Louisiana, there's a lot of back and forth about like offshore drilling and stuff like that. What's your stance on that?
Trump said it best, drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, the infrastructure in Louisiana, the way that it's set up, we have one of the largest ports in the country, right? Biden signed an executive order to stop all natural gas, right? He stopped it, which put a damper on about 30% of our revenue just in natural gas, not to talk about crude oil, not to talk about anything else, just natural gas. We are one of the largest producers of natural gas. We have what's called the Haynesville Shale in my particular immediate area. And the Haynesville Shale is one of the largest oil deposits in the country. And as such, I am surrounded by companies, wireline, workover rigs, oil companies in this general area that want to go to work here. They want to put the business back here, and I personally worked hand in hand with some of the biggest companies in this general area, and as we saw some of these things coming down the pipe. We saw some of the restrictions coming in to where we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. And these companies started exporting from Louisiana, right? So like there's a wireline service who has a fishing section, which is basically where they would go in and run wire tools down the hole to go retrieve broken parts or whatever it is to pull them back out the hole so they could continue to do what they needed to do. They took that portion of the company and took it halfway across the country or exported it to Alaska or wherever else they needed it, because we have so many restrictions on what we can and can't do here in the state of Louisiana. So that being said, it's not saying that it's not happening. They're just exporting it to other places.
Right.
So why are we going to prevent ourselves from making the money or doing the things right here locally, not only in the state of Louisiana, but in the country as a whole? Why are we exporting these jobs to other countries and then getting mad because we say we're going to export our jobs to other countries, but we want you to pay us to bring your product in, right?
Yeah.
So we're giving you the work, but you got to pay us for us giving you the work. So there's two negatives there. Number one, we're exporting jobs. Number two, we're against tariffs. Like, why? We're in a perpetual down spiral in the country as a whole. I mean, speaking for the state of Louisiana in general, something else that a lot of people don't know is that most 18-wheeler companies that are founded in the state of Louisiana, and by 18-wheeler, tractor trailer, however you want to refer to them, they export their business to another state due to the price of insurances and such like that in the state of Louisiana. So we've got these big companies like the wireline services and this, that, and the third that'll go buy an acre lot in Oklahoma, call that their business residence, and then insure their vehicles up there because it's more expensive to do it down here. Right. But again, we're a refinery state. Yep. Right. So we have the capability to be 100% self-sufficient when it comes to those things because we're a refinery state, number one. And number two, we're one of the largest exporting ports in the nation. So why are we turning ourselves away from our homegrown possibilities? I mean, the work in itself that would provide inside of the state, that would bring your unemployment rates way down from where they're at right now. I've got a personal friend. He considers me his brother. That when they stopped the Keystone deal, he went from making $250,000 a year to sitting at home looking for a job making $13, $14 an hour, because we can't pipeline anymore.
That's crazy.
Right. I mean, somebody that goes from making, well over 6 digits a year is now sitting at home looking for pennies at $13, $14 an hour, claiming bankruptcy, losing everything they own, houses going up in the market. And then, the poverty level in Louisiana is so high right now that, again, it's not a poverty level. It'd be a good middle-class American income if we just opened up the resources that we have naturally right here.
So what are you going to do for the fine folks of Louisiana if you're elected?
Well, I'll tell you another one, and we haven't even touched on this one yet. We talk about rural health care all over the country. Rural health care is lacking. Okay. So this is something that I haven't publicly gotten into yet at all, but it's something that I would like to absolutely take a segment to talk about. So healthcare in general is paid for on a standard of what's called a RVU, a relative value unit. Okay. And everything that a doctor does, everything that a nurse does, everything that is done to you medically has a value. A relative value unit is assigned to what they do. If the doctor spends 10 minutes in the office with you, he's paid a XYZ amount of money from your insurance. If he spends 45 minutes in the office with you, he's paid XYZ. If he does this procedure, that procedure, whatever it is, all of those are relative value. And some people may understand that as like flag hours for a mechanic. Okay, look, you've got an alternator to put on a vehicle. We're going to pay you XYZ amount of money for putting an alternator on a vehicle. It's not an hourly wage or anything like that. It's how much money you get paid per procedure. Now that RVU is broke down into 3 parts, right? It's broke down into the work. So that means how much competence does the doctor have to be able to do it, or
Right.
the nurse, the medical provider. Is broke down into locality. So where in the country is this being done? Okay.
Right.
And then it's broke down. The third part is malpractice. How much of a chance of something going wrong is there? So that RVU is structured under 3 points, and it is paid under those 3 points. The RUC, or the Relative Value Scale Update Committee, which is a committee of the AMA, or American Medical Association. Okay. It
Right.
The AMA is a private entity. The
Yep.
AMA has a committee of, technically the AMA is less than 10% doctors, but the AMA has a committee that gets to sit down and say that a RVU is worth this amount of money. They then take that proposal and they give it to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS. And not once in all of eternity has one been disputed. Not once. So we have a subcommittee of the American Medical Association who says, oh, well, this amount of money is worth this, and hands it up, and they just take it with no questions asked. Now,
Wow.
what people don't understand is that things like the first section of that RVU, the work, the competency of the doctor, okay? So if you take a CPT code, I know I'm speaking Greek for a second, but if you take a CPT code such as 52000, which is a cystoscope, which basically in layman's terms means that I took the medical code for a cysto, and we're going to charge that to the insurance, which is where they take a lighted instrument and they go look around in your bladder and they look for cancer and other things, benign prostate hyperplasia or the enlarged prostate, something like that. They're going to diagnose why you have a problem peeing.
Sure.
So for them to take that instrument, go look in your bladder, come back out, and give you a diagnosis, even up to, not limited to, but to include cancer. The work section of that CPT code by CMS standards is paid between $188.26 to $284.24. So what you're saying is that there is almost $100 difference in the competence of a doctor from, say, California to Louisiana. So somewhere like,
Hang on. In layman's terms, because you're going way too deep for the average person to understand. In layman's terms, what does that mean to somebody that's going to go to the ballot and cast their vote for you or the incumbent, so they can understand? Like, they don't care about those codes. People don't know about that stuff. They don't. They
right.
don't focus on that. They go, hey, I've got $200 in my checking account, and you're telling me it's going to be $240. What are you as a senator going to do to change that for the people of Louisiana or the rest of the country?
Equality in healthcare. So
Okay.
we are paying doctors less in areas of rural healthcare. We pay the doctors up to 30% less to be a rural doctor, which promotes movement to larger populated areas. We're going to
Right.
pay doctors more in areas with more patients,
Right.
but on the thought process of, they're more competent. They work harder, but they see twice as many patients. So we're not only are they making more just standard for doing the same exact
But
procedure that
how are you going to change that?
I say we contest the proposals from the AMA, and we take it to
Okay.
CMS, and we say, hey, look, these doctors, all these doctors go to the same kind of medical school, they get the same kind of training, but now you're telling me that we're going to pay them less for going to a rural area. Rural areas statistically have more sick patients than vastly dense areas.
Yeah.
So if we're going to pay doctors a value, if we're going to pay for our healthcare at a value of a standard rate, then that standard rate needs to be the standard rate across the country,
Got it.
not just in a heavy populated area.
Got it.
That's one of the big pushes that I have right now. Everybody needs to be paid equally,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Just because my doctor's from Bossier City doesn't mean that he should make less than somebody who's from San Antonio or from
But I mean,
uh,
in from a Republican point of view, which I am, it's a free market. People are welcome to do whatever they want, right? Like you can go live wherever you want, and you can go choose any doctor you want. I understand what you're saying. I think that my question is, how does somebody in the U.S. Senate change what's happening? Whether it's equality or not, I mean, we live in a free market. The businesses that I own, I charge way more than some people in my industry do, right? And some things I charge less. So I think that it's a matter of me asking, like, what I'm asking you is, what can you do to cause some kind of a change on a Senate level to help people, really genuinely help people?
so yes, it is a free market, but you realize that there's a standard for the free market, right? Like, so there's a point that everybody starts at. For whatever your service is, it's here's the industry standard, right? And then you go from
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Your free market is your private insurance. I'm talking specifically about Medicare, Medicaid, which is a
Oh, I
government
got it.
entity, right?
Yeah.
So Medicare, Medicaid
Yeah.
is paying out at these rates, and then the private insurance is setting their rates off of that rate. So the Medicare, Medicaid, which is the powerhouse of this
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
is setting the rate and saying that we have $100 variation in between what we're paying doctors here and what we're paying doctors over here.
Yeah.
So therefore, the private industry is absolutely 100% capitalizing on that.
Yep.
And I'm not against the free market. I'm not against the private insurance, but I am against the golden standard being equal. So when we're talking Medicare, Medicaid, and we're talking about what the government is setting as at a standard,
Yep.
right? All it's doing is hindering the healthcare of the average American for them to be able to say, "Oh, well, yeah, over here is
Yeah.
worth $100 more." You know,
And I think I know that Trump has talked about that, about addressing the healthcare system in this country, and many other people have. I would love to see some change. Hey, look, I know we're coming to the end here. I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing with everybody. And I've got your website scrolling across the bottom there, Chris Holder for Senate. What can people do to help you um, take this campaign down the road? I mean, you still have a couple of years here, um, or well, a year and some change. So what can
yes.
they do to help you really get the ball rolling?
There's a couple things. Realistically, and I'm not one to ever ask, and that's what makes this so hard for me. Donations are the foundation of a campaign. I'm not one to stand out there and be like, "Oh, look, I'm not on a street corner shaking a hat." I'm legitimately working two jobs. I work full time, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday in a clinic, working with patient care, and then most every night I'm working retail to make the
Wow.
difference up of what I've already spent
Right.
on this campaign. So donations are the foundation of a political campaign. Any and all, from $5 to 5,000, whatever anybody feels inclined to do would be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Something else that I could really use is absolutely everybody or anybody that listens is follow me on every social media platform,
Yeah.
X, Facebook, any of them. I'm out there on Rumble, and a few others as well. So just show the support, share it. You may not be able to afford it. That's perfectly fine. A like doesn't cost anything.
That's right. And your on X, is all of your social media linked from the website?
Uh, yes, I
Okay.
have social media. That's my official social medias. If you want to follow me on a personal level, it's at Holder801. So that was
Awesome.
actually my badge number as a police officer. So that's how far
Oh,
that goes
wow.
back.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, thank you for your service. I genuinely mean that. I have a in my wallet here. I've done a lot of work for law enforcement, and you can see
Oh
the
yeah.
outline there. A little challenge coin, deputy sheriff challenge coin my buddy gave me. I love law enforcement, and I love this country, and that's why I asked you to be on. I support anybody trying to make this a better country, because the way it's been going, especially with all the rhinos and the nut jobs up there on Capitol Hill, just trying, it's almost like they're intentionally trying to destroy our country. Not almost, they are. There's some of them that are. And I think it's time for us all to stand up and take this country back. And I'm honored to have you on the show. And the honored that you're charging forward to fight that fight. It's
And I
amazing.
appreciate
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah.
and I'll say it right here at the end. Um, if it were a question of why wouldn't somebody else tackle those same things? Why do we have two MDs running for the same office and these issues have not ever been addressed? So again,
Yeah.
indoctrinated politicians, it's
They
time for a
suck.
change.
They suck. It's time for a change. I agree. I agree. So everybody watching, share this out. Thank you. We've got about 830 watching right now on X. So thank you to everyone who has shared this out. If you're watching the replay or listening to it on the podcast network, go to Chris Holder, ChrisHolder, 4 Senate.com, and donate. Throw $5 his way. Throw $100 his way. Do whatever you can, because we've got to get some good people into our. I mean, we got to get some good people in there. We got to get rid of these people that are trying to just destroy this country. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. Thank you for your service again. And thank you for running for Senate to make a change and a difference in this world.
I surely appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you. And I'm going to wrap this up now. If you want to hang on for a minute, it's going to feel like I left and I'm not coming back, but I promise I'll be back. So, everybody, thank you so much. Please share this out if you haven't already. Share it out. Let's get a bunch of people on here watching. Everybody go follow Chris go look him up. He's on X. He's everywhere. So go look him up, and we will see you all later. Chris, thank you so much.